have a story to tell. Yes, even you. This podcast series was created to shine a light on the lives of people from many different walks of life from around the world. What they all hold in common is they're all inspiring in some way. My name is Russ Moore, and each week I bring to you the stories of those I think from another perspective. I'm also a proud ambassador of Destiny Rescue, and I feel it's my role wherever possible to draw attention to that tremendous organisation. For it's through their tireless work they do that sees them rescue children from human trafficking and child sexual exploitation. To find out more, visit destinyrescue.org. I hope you enjoy the series. Welcome back to Moments in Time. My name's Russ Moore. Today we travel to beautiful Vancouver, Canada. It's here we'll be hearing from a gentleman by the name of Gary Mitchell. Now, Gary's an interesting character. He caught my attention when he told me, in fact, he stated he'd never been sued in 17 years of business, and that had my attention. To anybody else, I'd think, well, so what? But when I found out what Gary did for a living, it all made sense. Gary's business, OnTrac Coaching, concentrates solely on the legal profession, and it's no surprise that he's happy about his claim. Gary's also an author of 3 books, and as a former member, he's a former candidate in the political arena, and it's here that he made changes in his life. He was firstly a political candidate, being the one out front, and then later he chose to take a supporting role where he supported another campaign. So let's hear from now, Gary. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here, Russ.
Very good. Now, you were born in Toronto, correct?
I was in a suburb of Toronto, Mississauga. You said in your preliminary notes you couldn't pronunciate the name. It's Mississauga.
Mississauga,
like
okay.
A small town when I was a kid, and now it's over 1 million people, right?
But that's on the lake too, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's on Lake Ontario. Yeah.
Beautiful place. Now
we for a few impressionable years, we lived right in Port Credit, which is right. There's a very long running river that comes down into Lake Ontario, and I grew up in a Port Credit area.
And would that freeze over? That with the lake?
Oh yeah, Ontario would have full on winter for sure.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And over what period of time are you fully snowed in?
Well, the whole lake wouldn't freeze over. It would probably be frozen by January for a couple of months, January, February. You could still get boats through there, but of course, I don't know if it freezes over anymore. With the way climate's been changing.
Well, there's another question.
Yeah.
Well, and I've always been fascinated by the level of comfort you guys have in walking on the ice and knowing when to and when not to. Because if it all goes wrong, it goes wrong badly. So I've always wondered how you've managed that.
Well, I'm not an expert in that. You're talking about people much farther north than Toronto. Like Toronto gets winter, but we're not skating on Lake Ontario in the wintertime. It's too big. The Great Lakes are massive, so they don't fully freeze over. Rivers would freeze over. Some rivers would freeze over. You'd skate on those, but not a lake like Lake Ontario. No. Okay. And just so you know, Russ, I was more built for the beach than the snow pile. So,
and we're going to get to that shortly, because when we found out where you've spent time in running your business, it pauses for thought for many of us, because we like to do the same thing. So very good. Now, you never considered yourself an academic, but you're a man. You've been active in a lot of different arenas. You're an author. Why didn't you consider yourself academic?
I guess I just always thought of myself as an experiential learner. I'm probably not saying that right. It's ironic because in the final year of high school back there in Ontario, I had grade 13, only province in Canada that still had it. And I took grade 13. I didn't have to. You can graduate after grade 12. But I took 2 English courses, which meant 4 semesters altogether, English. And I was reading. This coming from a guy that was put into a slow reading class in grade 4.
Wow. There you go.
So as I was working with the publisher on my 3rd book, I looked back and I remembered, and I chuckled to myself, probably a good thing my teachers put me in a slow reading class so I could properly learn to read. But I never considered myself, like when I thought of, I tinkered around the idea of going into law as a lawyer, in my high school days, for sure. The challenge of it, standing up for what's right, things like that. But I just didn't think I had what it took to do the studying part. I really didn't. I mean, they are really dedicated. They study so hard, right?
And for so long.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people also, they don't want to wait for the income or can't wait for the income. So it's a big commitment. The cost of education, of course, to get yourself qualified, and then two, the lack of income along the way. So so people do things differently for a reason. But the types of books you read now, like what do you read yourself, Gary? What?
Well, I don't. I have to admit, Russ, I don't read for entertainment. I'll watch a movie for entertainment. I read entrepreneurial books. I read business books, business magazines, newsletters, things that can help me improve as an entrepreneur and business owner, and also help me as a coach working with my clients. Right. So my reading, like some people are like, oh, you should relax. I'm like, yeah, I'll put on Netflix when I'm going to entertain myself. Right. The reading, when I read, it's business books, entrepreneur books.
I'm a biography guy myself. Love reading about people.
That's fun too. History, politics. I mean, that's all about. It's all kind of related, right? Understanding history, understanding political situations is really all about understanding people.
It all boils down to that, doesn't it? I agree. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Now, you're 56 now. You leave college around 1990. It's around that time you left college. What did you do initially after that? Where did you go?
I was still working in restaurants. In 1991, I started my first business. Actually built, you're going to laugh, but I built the Great Canadian Karaoke Challenge from a small little business in Toronto, offering karaoke equipment, training up hosts and putting them in pubs all throughout Metro Toronto, to growing a national event all across the country, including 9 provinces and even 1 territory up in the Yukon. And I ran that for 3 years, and that kind of brought me out to Vancouver to promote the West Coast part of the event. And I swear, Ross, I had one of those aha moments, because I got off the plane, so to speak, and I looked around. It was drizzle, it was gray, but it wasn't cold. And I was like, something here. And within a year, I was moving to Vancouver.
Okay. Yeah. And it sometimes just takes something small at the time. It's significant. You don't know why. And it's later on that you realise why you made that move or why you made that decision. Now, you entered politics. What was the attraction there? I'm aware of your attraction because you like to stand up for people. But how did you enter? What was the catalyst that saw you make that move?
I remember putting up signs with my father when I was 9 years old. 2 things I started around that age were, one, acting. My first acting role was when I was 9 years old, and getting involved in politics. And I'd always grown up, especially Sunday dinner. Gramps was over. We talked politics. We talk history. So I grew up in a family that was engaged. My parents had always been involved. Getting my first election, I was more excited about getting to vote than I was when I got my driver's license. Right?
Really?
None of my friends could understand that, but I was like, wow, this is so cool. I get to vote. So, just over the years, and actually once a few years after I moved out to Vancouver, I was approached by a friend to support a candidate. And that's what drew me back in. And I volunteered. I got on the board of the Riding Association. And I remember just having one of those feelings that, okay, the circumstances, without going into too much detail, I went, it's time for me to step up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to run. And it was contested. I had to win a nomination first before I was a candidate. And I'll tell you something, Russ, as a political junkie, most incredible experience I've ever been through. Very challenging. I mean, you have to have thick skin, very thick skin.
I can well imagine.
And I knew I wasn't going to win, right? The party was not going to win in the riding I lived in. But I knew I had to do it. And I remember, this is another one of those moments, moments in time is the title of your podcast. I'm running. I now won the nomination, and it was almost like, I think your system over in Australia is similar, like parliamentary system. So there's a set term. It doesn't. The elections don't go on forever like you do in the United States.
Oh, I know. We are similar to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was there. It was. We were in limbo. We didn't know when the prime minister was going to call. So basically, I was in campaign mode for over 4 months. And normally the writ period, the actual campaign is about 28 days. But I remember running with my dog on the seawall here in Vancouver one day, and I thought, you're not going to win, but something, not knowing or having any clue, something will come from this, right? Something will come from putting yourself forward, putting yourself out there, and standing for what you believe in, taking risk, right? Taking some punches, big time.
Sure. Yeah.
Felt like a pincushion when it was all over. But I learned a lot. And, what an experience. Wow.
Sure. And that the role reversal, when you decided to go in support of a friend's campaign, again, you made that move across. Was that a bit of a precursor, do you think, to the support role of what you do now?
It was totally it's how it all began. Because when I was starting to see the impact I was having on another person, right? The candidate happened to be a lawyer. Was a lawyer, very highly educated, 2 masters, geology and law.
Wow.
So doubly, book smart, intellectual, but as far as politics, green. And, we're friends to this day, and he will always chuckle about what a blank canvas he was back then. And so, we built a very trusted relationship running his nomination. I had no intention of moving past that, but he was very determined to have me as his campaign manager. I finally gave in. And throughout the course of that experience, a friend of his, a former lawyer, had pointed out to me that I had this knack for working with intellectual people and helping them with the softer skills, right?
Yes.
The networking, the speaking, the interacting, right? Kissing babies.
Yes.
For politics. But basically, it boils down to soft skills. And he said to me, you really need to look at the legal industry because lawyers really need help with business, with marketing, business. And I'm like, really?
Gary, you're the opposite of the law profession in many ways. I mean, you present, you're a cool guy, the hair, the whole deal. So you walk into an office like into a new client, and you are the polar opposite. You're outward. The lawyers operate with a certain set of parameters. You're training them to look outside that. There's so many things which is the opposite to what they stand for. How you accept it? When you first go into a new client, you have to engage those soft skills to get across the line so you can then move to what you do best. They've got to get through that part first.
Well, I think, first of all, let me tell you what my first client said, why he hired me. He said, Gary, I want you to be clear. You were one of 3 people I looked at. The other 2 had experience already in legal marketing in the industry. I don't have a scratch on me. I'm brand spanking new, no experience, knowledgeable because I did about 9 months of research before I tried. Sure, okay, I can coach someone in politics, but coaching them in the legal business required a lot of research on my part. But he said to me, Gary, I already know how to be a good lawyer. I want what you have, that entrepreneurial approach, drive, and spirit. And he kind of set me up. How many times in business does your first client really make it clear who your target audience is and who you should be approaching, right? So when I'm approaching, and I just brought on a new client recently, she's never done any business development before. She just moved firms. She's a very, very, she's won tons of awards. She's a brilliant lawyer. She took a big chance moving firms, national firm, senior partner. And when I was talking to her within the consultation, and this has been my approach for some time, which I think stands me out from other lawyer coaches, is I really look at the psychology of this. I look at the lawyer mind. And I'll even make jokes about it, and hopefully they have a sense of humor. They're probably going to need to if they're going to work with me. I like to keep things moving, and I'm not so dry. But the way I break it down, Russ, is that a typical lawyer, has had Olympic level training and experience with right brain functions, right?
Yes.
Critical thinking, analytics. They tend to be risk averse. They procrastinate. They're perfectionists. I mean, between their brain function and their typical personality traits, which totally support them in being great lawyers, and it's why their clients hire them, are the exact opposite skills that are required in business. So I tell them I'm going to get them off the couch binging Netflix with their left brain, and I'm going to get it up and exercise with those functions. And, they're smart. So as soon as they hear that explanation, they get it, and they know they need it. They know they don't have it, right? And so it's a really, I like to keep things practical, down to earth, and simple. And when I explain it to them like that, they get it, and they know they need it, right?
And there's no fluffing law anyway.
No.
There's no fluff. There's no time for that.
That first client, he actually said something to the effect of, the other people were a little fluffy. Like, marketing people can be fluffy sometimes. I can't think of a better word at this point. Yes. And he just liked my directness, my frank, down-to-earth approach. And that's just who I am, right? I find that works. And, just this new client who I started yesterday, our consultation was 2 weeks ago, and her last words, actually, Sherry said, "Yeah, I definitely need to do this. I feel comfortable working with you. Let's go." She said, "I hope you're up for a challenge." And I said, "I've always been up for a challenge. I love it."
No, that seems you don't have to speak to you very long, Gary, to pick up on that. Now, 2010 comes along. Your mother had been battling illness for some years, around 6 or 7 years, and you started to realise it was serious. It was described to you as a sickness you could manage, but it was becoming clearer that it wasn't. How did that affect the way you approached the running of your life and your business? Because you made some serious changes around that time.
Russ, it was, talk about, again, going back to your theme, moments in time. It was another one of those aha moments, because here my parents were middle class, hardworking, all their life, sacrificed a lot for us, the children, didn't take many vacations, and had all these plans for retirement. And within a year, I kid you not, of my father retiring, my mother got diagnosed with cancer. And at the time they said manageable, but really manageable meant 9 years with treatment, chemo, radiation, all of that. So all their retirement plans to travel were kiboshed, all of them. It's not all a sob story. They did manage to do somewhat well in creating a decent life in retirement. But it really was a light bulb for me, Russ, because I'm like, what am I waiting for? Like, I love Mexico. I love Latin cultures. I love to travel. And so 2010 was the first year I started working from Mexico in the wintertime. I took my 1-year-old English bulldog down with me, and was Malecon in Puerto Vallarta. Technology has really changed since then. I mean, I had to use Vonage through the computer to phone back to clients in Canada and the US. Now it's just a matter of using the cell phone with WhatsApp.
Yes.
But it was, what am I waiting for, right? It may never happen. A, I might not live that long to retirement. B, I may never want to retire. I hate winter. Doing what I do, I can do from anywhere. So why wouldn't I do it from a place where I love? And, one of my clients, a long-time client, he was actually the first guest on my new podcast. And he said, Gary, you need to own this. You need to own this with all your clients and your prospects that you're working from Mexico in the winter, because there's a lot that would be loving to do that. And with technology the way it is now, with the kick in the pants that we all got from COVID and people working remotely, there's more opportunities to work from wherever you want to, even in law, even in the practice of law. And I did have clients going back 14 years. One of my senior clients in Toronto was working from Costa Rica in the winter. His office was still operating in Toronto, but so much can be done electronically, and people are like, yeah, why couldn't I work from wherever, fill in the blank. Where is your happy place, right? You're talking to me from Thailand right now. You and your wife are there. And I'm like, this is, I don't need to take a week off completely, because I'm having a working vacation every single day of my life, right?
If you work from somewhere you like, it's not work.
No, it's not.
Like we'll talk today. I've got some writing to do later on this afternoon, and all the work still gets done. My wife's work still gets done, and we have lived our life like someone's left the gate open. That's how we term it. And it's 30 years together, and we've always done the same thing. And I sometimes you can't talk to some people about that because it's too big to fathom.
Yeah,
you know, that why we pick up from home, leave everything behind, and property and all the rest, and get on a plane, not knowing when we're coming back. And that's the fact. We just don't know. So and we're more than comfortable with that decision.
I actually have on that subject, because I will work with anyone to help them try and have what I have, right? Because it's just the quality of life every day. But I actually have some friends who she had gone through a pretty nasty divorce. She met this younger personal trainer from Seattle, and they took off 8 or 9 years ago and have been living all over the world ever since, house sitting and writing travel blogs. Wow is right. They got married 2 years ago, and I've been following their whole adventure the whole time. And I'm like, wow, right? Like, forget about the condo, forget about the address, forget about everything. And just, they don't know where they're going to be in 4 months, right? But something will come up and they will land in another amazing place to see. So, you know, whoever I work with, to me, it's about freedom. And I don't tell my clients what freedom means to them. They tell me, and then I try and help them get it, because everything in my life is about freedom now, right? And if I can help other people with that, wow, that's a pretty amazing way to make a living.
Let's move to your books. Okay. What are your books? What's the name of your books? What motivated you to suddenly pick up a pen?
Well, I thought I've been creating so much content, writing for legal publications, articles, tip sheets, worksheets. And I thought, you know what? I've got so much material here. I should really put it together, because at the time, there was no business coach in legal who had a published book about business development. So the first one was called Rain Dance, the Business Development Guidebook for Lawyers.
Love it.
The cheeky term rain dance, right? Like making rain is an expression for making money, bringing clients. The second one was kind of an updated version of that, Rain Dance 2, a blueprint for growing a practice. And then the third one, which I'm most proud and passionate about, was growing a law practice during COVID-19. And it was about the challenges that were going on for everyone all over the world, right? How it changed working forever. There's no way, Russ, law firms would have ever have allowed lawyers and staff to work from home had COVID-19 not come around, right? They had to embrace technology more. So it really flipped the legal industry on it upside down. And so I wanted to take a moment and acknowledge what had changed. You know, I said that too, and my publishers let me use the A word in the book. I'm glad, because they said, had COVID, in the preface, they said, had COVID-19 not come around and knocked the legal industry on its, there's no way lawyers or staff would be working from home. They're far too conservative. They're far too rigid, you know, and it's like, so that was the third book. I think I'm done writing books for a while, as I've told you. It's a lot of work, as you know. And I'm kind of, I got to tell you a funny story about the third one, though, because I'm always, the way I'm thinking is always systems and processes and how to improve things and streamline them and make them easier. So my wall in my office here in Vancouver looked like one of those crime walls on a detective show, but it was, each chapter was a piece of paper, 8.5 by 11, and then I had little stickies all over the place. As soon as if I was here, I'd write on the sticky. If I was at the gym or out, I'd make notes on my phone. And this is so I didn't go insane with the creative flow of I gotta remember this, I gotta remember this. It's like, I love crime and law and order type shows. Go figure. And so, you know what? I'm going to build the book wall. And I'll tell you, it streamlined the process so much. It made for a much more pleasant experience, right? And I wasn't getting stressed out about all these ideas coming all the time. I was like, okay, park it. When I deal with that chapter, I'll deal with it then.
Well, I'll often walk into my wife's office when we're home, working from home, where she's had home offices for as long as I can remember, and mirrors floor to ceiling, businesses just laid out every aspect of it, and she said it's out of my mind, it's there, and I get
exactly.
to it, and then a new creation start, blank canvas, writes it all out and spits that all out. So what's next for you? More of the same? Do you have ambition to do something different? Is there another phase in your life? You're still a young man.
I just started my own podcast, the Law Biz podcast. I've recorded more than are live. We got 2 out live. I'm enjoying that. I'm really I started being a guest on podcasts last year or the year before, and I really enjoy it. I don't enjoy just presenting information, just myself. I really don't. It's one-sided. There isn't any collaboration. There isn't any back and forth. So I picked that up. And this company in the US approached me in January, and they came to me and they said, Gary, we're going to be doing things differently. I've been a guest on their podcast a few times. This is what we'd like to do. We want you to host your own podcast series. You have full creative, and we produce it and get it out there. And I'm like, what? I get to have all the fun parts?
Control the narrative.
Exactly. I line up the hosts. I came up with a name even. It's my name, the Law Biz podcast. So that's what I'm doing now. I don't know beyond that, Russ, beyond coaching more. I don't think, I'm not in any rush to, if I ever wrote another book, it's not going to be a business book. It's going to be a life book. It's going to be
so many people now are having a change of attitude that things are different, and that COVID come around and it made people look at their lives, think differently.
Totally.
And to be honest, the law profession really lends itself well to working remotely. It really does. It's you still have the face-to-face. You're getting the information you need, and I'm sure many lawyers have actually looked at that, and after seeing what you do, saying, can I run my business from Costa Rica, or can I run my business?
And of course, it does depend on a number of factors. First of all, your family, right? Like you and your wife,
of course,
didn't just pick up when you're raising your children. They're grown, and so that affords you that freedom. Are you on your own, or are you working for a big firm? What are the policies of that big firm? And they're different. Some of the firms have mandated back to the office full time. Smarter ones, I have an opinion on this. The smarter ones are being smart and being flexible and working with the individual talent. Because one of the reasons for the Great Resignation, you just hit on it, is people stopped and reflected big time. We just went through the biggest collective event on the planet since World War II, right?
Sure.
And being a fan of history, like I told you before, I love history. You never go through an event like that without stopping, taking a deep breath, looking around you and going, what the hell am I doing in my life? Right.
We didn't have a reference point, Gary, did we? We looked at it, and this was started. It grew and grew and grew, and people were saying, what is this thing? And it wasn't still. And Australia, we had lockdowns like in some of the states for long periods of time. Queensland, where I'm from, I'm originally from Melbourne, but we were living in Queensland, and we looked at each other, think, what is this thing? And no one knew anything about it. It was decisions being made, and on behalf of the country. Not everybody agreed with it, and individual groups. And as we become more knowledgeable on the subject, we started to challenge, and then while we're at it, let's just look at what other things are happening. And you said before about traveling. We traveled for 8 years with our kids. and we're in Thailand for 4, and then over the Middle East for another 4. Kids went to school, and that was just a fire that's being lit, lit in their minds, and I'm sure they'll go and do it. One of my oldest son.
Oh, I would have killed for that. I mean, I would have definitely put up with the being uprooted to have that experience. Like my first big year of travel was when I was 18 and I was traveling around the world. I was like, wow, right?
23.
Like,
I think I was 22 when I first got on an airplane.
Yeah. No, it was well. That's why. Speaking of the airplane, the second chapter in the last book, Growing a Law Practice During COVID-19, second chapter was called Put Your Own Mask On First. And I talk about my first time on an airplane when I was 18 years old, and they're doing the emergency thing. The flight attendant is telling you to put your own mask on first before you help elderly or infants. And I'm a kid, I'm 18 years old, I'm a child. And I'm like, well, that's pretty damn selfish. I can see kids and I can see elderly people. And then, of course, with life and business experience behind me, I'm like, yeah, you can't be much help if you're not breathing yourself, right? And so there was, doing what I do, I kind of lean to being an optimist and looking for the good things. There were many good things that have come out of COVID. A lot of lives have turned around. A lot of people that were muddling through, head down, unhappy, have turned things around, have figured things out, have changed the way they're living their lives, and they're happier for it. Some have changed careers. Some have changed relationships. I was in Mexico when I had to fly back to Vancouver. That week for me, it was a crushing week. It started off amazing on a very big high, getting a new client. And then by the Thursday, my friend texted me after one of the most incredible days I've ever had down there to let me know that British Columbia was the first province in Canada to impose the 14-day quarantine upon coming back into the country. And so my thought there was, I wasn't worried about, I'm going to be inconvenienced by the 14-day quarantine. No, my thought was, the shit is hitting the fan. This is real, right? This is tracking. And I went online, changed my flight, and came home a couple days earlier. But I also remember being on the plane thinking, business is going to tank. My family law, my divorce lawyer clients are going to go through the roof because, again, this is going to cause reflection. Bankruptcy lawyers are going to be going through the roof. A whole bunch of different law practices would thrive, and a whole bunch of others would be hurt dramatically. And everything that I thought of and predicted, it came to fruition. But then as we got through it, people learned how to work from home. People learned that, like I had one client, Russ, and I will be hosting her on my podcast. 6 weeks prior to lockdown, and she was the one who reached out to me on that Monday, the week we actually all went into lockdown in March of 2020. That was why Monday was such a good day. 6 weeks prior to lockdown, she had moved from a very comfortable equity partnership role, so ownership in the firm, where she didn't have to do any business development. The work just flowed to her because of the nature of the firm. She took a huge leap of faith. This was a boutique firm in Vancouver, moved to a national firm where she had to engage in business development to grow her own practice. She's now non-equity partner to stop. That's the way they do it. If you're lateral, you're not given ownership right away. You have to prove yourself. So she's never doing business development. And now we're in lockdown, and she's a single mom with 2 young girls, now at home because the schools are shut. So she's dealing with a huge career challenge, never working from home, being a single caregiver, all of this all at once. Wow. Like, I can hardly wait to get her on the show because her story is incredible. That's what actually motivated me to write that last book, where some of the stories of the people that I was working with during the time that this happened, and the courage, determination, and perseverance that they showed throughout that time. And I thought other lawyers need to hear about this, right? Other people need to hear about this because we can be strong and we can conquer, right? So
very true. Gary, I've really enjoyed your clarity on how you've conducted business, way you live your life, and it's been very, very humbling experience to chat to you. It's nice to meet someone else who lives that life like the gates open. Thanks for joining us on Moments in Time, mate.
My pleasure, Russ. All the best.